All right, let's try this. Let's see what's going to happen. So what we're doing is we're looking at how OpenIDConnect Federation interacts with MCP stuff. You'll notice I'm glancing up in the top right because I'm seeing my other screen. So as we do this, what's going to happen is we're going to use OpenIDConnect Federation to be able to be the backplane of trust within the MCP space. And you're going to see if, what we have is a Docker Compose that will bring up a Federation management interface. We will have registered an endpoint in GitHub for us to sign in from. And when we sign in, we will be able to use that sign-on and remint it with a trust anchor so that we can talk to a relying party. In this case, it's going to be the MCP side of things. So our OAuth registration, I've created the OpenIDConnect test Federation here, or sorry, it's not Federation. It's just an endpoint that is in developer settings. It's an OAuth 2 endpoint. I've got the necessary client ID and the client secret. It's all good to go. You'll note that let's see if things work. Nope, sorry. You'll note that things are probably going to jump. Yeah, it's going to jump because my hotkey is the tab change. Interesting. So localhost 3001 is going to be the endpoint. So when you sign in to get the authorization, you'll go back to localhost 3001 because you're running a Docker Compose on that port. It's going to receive the token, and then it's going to do the clever, interesting things with it, and it's going to remint the token so that what happens is you remint the token and get that token used for the authorization for the MCP server, and you're going to have a view from the web, and we're going to have a view from actual VSCode. So on start, we're going to, in this case, this current version has the anchor key and CA dynamically generated. I'm going to be changing that to be generated out of band so that it just uses it. Then we're going to boot. Once it's started, we're going to log in, get the authentication against OAuth, against GitHub, as I just talked a moment ago. Going to post that to the callback code, localhost 3001. And then you're going to see the stuff, and then we're going to use that token in different places. You're going to see me also have to actually go into VS Code and cut and paste that bearer token. So you can actually see me use against the MCP server. So let's go and do it. So there's the MCP server. Here is the Federation admin. Let's take a refresh on this. Of course, not running. Let's start it. So let's take a look at some of the things here. Lots going on. So I've already built the containers. There's a bunch of stuff on the building. Don't worry about it. It's basically an Alpine container, super thin. You'll notice that we have an MCP server. 4001 is where the MCP is at. And then some of the Federation stuff. And then we're registering some of the tools. And yeah, we're good to go. So let's go back to our web browser. Look at that. Not authenticated. So what you'll notice is that the OAuth application, I've already been signed in. I'm this one client right here. So I go back to the Federation. When I tap on this, boom, I've gone to GitHub, come back, here's my token, it knows who I am, and here's the JWT we just built, hot off the press. So what happens is we use that JWT and we'll use it in some of the other server. Now let's take a look at some of our Federation metadata. Looking good. We have the trust anchor. We have, in this case, called it Federation Alpha. It's at the there's the fetch endpoint is here. There's the JWKS keys. we have the admin health of the container, and then the current token. So this is my current token. You'll notice that I have some trust marks in it. And the trust anchor validation chain. Now, the trust anchor is at localhost 3001. That's where it's been minted. This is important when it's routable and all this kind of stuff, because that's kind of the name. And it's what it's going to be known by. So what you name it, it's going to be very useful. Obviously, we're in a test environment. So I'm going to tap this. So what has been done is we're going here, and my token's been passed in, and it's been validated. Now this is the web interface. And as the web interface, it's all fine and dandy. So the token is validating. Let's see if I'll test the API, test who I am. Yeah, there we go. So here is whom it thinks I am. Now these are functions of my asking to be created, and here's the trust chain. This is what's happening. OpenIDConnect Federation. We have a trust anchor. We have using JWT signature, trust chain verification, GitHub OAuth, and then the who I am. Here's the main API, and then the public for the service. Now, this is not MCP. Now, let's go do the MCP part. We are going to need the bearer token. I'm not going to clear the token. I'm going to copy it. So, great. Copied it into the clipboard. Thanks. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to need to find our mcp.json. You'll see that I have the bearer token needs to go here. Oh, I apologize. This is not quite the right MCP one. I think it's in this one. So this is the template. This is where you're going to do. I'm not too worried about the bearer token because it's not going to be anything interesting. So what you'll notice is I have VSCode in the project, MCP JSON. That's the file. So now here's the endpoint. Yes, I know it's HTTP. Don't get too bent. And so we're going to control V, close quote in there, and I believe that should be enough. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the syntax was right. Get rid of that. So now, when I go to here, you'll notice I've been here in my GitHub. So what's going to happen is I'm going to use this in the agent. So if I go /list, and you'll also note that it says start forecast tools. Let's see what we're going to see here in our tools. Cool. Demo who I am. So now I'm not in a browser. I'm using this in a regular way, as if I were using the chat in an AI context. And now AI can invoke this method if I ask it to. So let's try some. MCP demo who am I? It may take a moment. And I may not be using this right either. Let's see. I think the fan's spinning a bit higher. Take a look at this. These are the past verifications and the tokens validating. So now what you just saw was here's the identity information. And now I can say things like, let's see what I can say. Who is logged into MCP demo? Let's see if this actually, I don't know. I wonder if it's going to be able to do this quite right, but let's see. Let's see. Not bad. So now you're getting really interesting. Now I can use this in plain text, and you know the information is accurate. You know it is bona fide me because I've signed in and because we have a chain of trust in the Federation space. So now I can do interesting things such as I think my name is present and maybe the authorship on the thing. So I can do something interesting. Is the author on this repo and package the same as the authenticated user in MCP demo? Let's see. I'm very curious. Cool. Isn't that? Let's take a look. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Oh my. There's reading a few files. The fan is going. Wow, I love it. There's the demo. So, why am I so excited about this? We now could use in MCP trustworthy identity that comes from and underwritten by the Federation and comes from your identity provider. In this particular case, it was GitHub. And the authenticity of it is proven as long as you believe that the model and policies within the OpenIDConnect Federation, this is the critical piece. If you abide by the practices and the policies in here, what you're doing is you're really saying, I trust all the identity providers, the OPs, OpenIDConnect OPs, and therefore the authorization, OAuth 2 authorization, and then I get into here. And if I use this, you'll notice that this OP is in two different trust anchors. So it's in two, if it's like a Venn diagram like this, it sits in the middle. It also means that any of the relying parties here, also any of the MCP servers, you could say every RP is an MCP server. You could say that I can sign into. This is typically exhibited as the Canadian Federation, and this school has an intermediate. And what happens is, you could say the MCP server at this open data or private data science that is collaborating with another institution over here, you can now collaborate using federated multilateral federation because this exists. And the identities are accurate. You can go even further than that too. Given that you are in the Federation space here, the minting of the JWT token, you can do really interesting things by amalgamating or overlaying additional information here that you would get from other authorities, such as a group management system or any of your signals. This is your policy enforcement point. You can do all your stuff and you can mint this token with the necessary information, as well as, and it's not shown here, you can actually do things with some opacity to them as well. So if you want to mask some of the information, such as here in the GitHub, if I wanted to mask, let's say, a payload specifically for another segment of my population, or something that's a inside kind of story, you can do that too. Super excited about it. I still have some work to do, but I think I've just shown my point. Thanks.